in New Orleans catching up with Scott Melbye, Executive Vice President at UEC. Scott, nice to see you. How are you?
It's great. It's good to see you and be here in New Orleans, which is such a big event for UEC, and we're always glad to be here.
Yeah, we love being here as well. It's been a few months since I spoke with you last. Please give us an update on the uranium market and what you see as important coming up.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to acknowledge, I think everybody realizes that this uranium recovery, which really started in November of 2016 when the market price bottomed out and started to recover due to the production cuts around the world, it's taken much longer than most had anticipated. But I think what's encouraging, and we're seeing more and more evidence of it every day, is the thesis around that, the production cuts that now total more than 50 million pounds a year of production that's not coming to the market that would have been 3 or 4 years ago is coming out. Demand is as strong as it's ever been in the last 25 years at least in terms of new reactors coming online. 42 in the last 6 years, 54 more under construction. So the underlying demand for uranium is approaching 200 million pounds. Global production's at 140 million. You can do the math. It's drawing down those oversupplies much more rapidly than would have been the case.
You have a number of key drivers. One is what you talk about, production cuts. The other is economic growth. You also have sort of the clean energy thesis. And more recently, you have sort of the strategic energy reserves. Which of those do you see as the most prominent right now?
Well, I think at UEC, as a truly a made in America uranium producer with operations in Texas and Wyoming, we have 4 permitted licensed mines that can produce anywhere from in 6 to 24 months time. We obviously will benefit from President Trump's working group on making uranium industry, and not only uranium but the nuclear fuel cycle in the United States, more viable and robust. Those recommendations are expected in middle of November. We don't have any insight into the details of in that report. We know what we've advised the working group, the Department of Energy, the Department of Commerce, all the various people advising the president. So we're optimistic that there'll be positive policy coming out of that report. Having said that, though, I'm probably more optimistic about the global uranium fundamentals and this rebalancing that's taking place. One of the reasons we're seeing nuclear grow so dramatically right now is that the climate change community, they just passed COP24 in Poland last year. They're going into COP25 this year now in Madrid. They've almost come to a panicked realization that they've been trying to reduce global carbon emissions for 25 years and have achieved nothing. And that panicked realization has caused some former anti-nuclear people to really take a second look at nuclear and in many cases embrace. So we're seeing policies at the state level, at the national levels around the world that are now including uranium and nuclear energy as a clean fuel energy put in the same light as renewables. And that's something we really fought for some time, but that's really underpinning the whole positive narrative for uranium right now.
All right, is the major objection still safety, perceived safety issues, or something else?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you take in the United States, I think the biggest challenge has been competing in a market where you have a heavy degree of subsidization of renewables, which is ironically run 25% of the time, but they get the heaviest amount of subsidization. Also the realization that nuclear can go a long ways towards state and national carbon reduction initiatives. So the fact that these market reforms are beginning to fully value nuclear energy, clean baseload power, has really been a big thing. So dysfunctional deregulated market structures have hurt us in the U.S., and certainly cheap natural gas. And so we've got to maintain competitiveness. The existing fleet at 3, 4, 5 cents a kilowatt hour can compete day in, day out with even cheap natural gas. And that's why we've seen some states kind of reverse their position that we're looking at early retirements of plants and now actually rewarding those plants for putting clean air on the grid.
Got it. All right, Scott Melbye, great to see you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. It's great to meet with you.